Celsius and gas station pizza. It's the lunch of champions. Well, guys, with the new Z now available, a lot of people are asking the question of whether or not the 370Z is even worth purchasing in 2022 or beyond. I want to know what your thoughts are, so leave them down in the comment section below. But this video is going to be, of course, what my opinions are. First of all, looks. The 370Z is a sharp-looking little car. Very, very track-inspired, sporty, sleek body lines. A lot of aftermarket support in terms of aesthetics and aero goes, so you can really make these cars look super, super good. So, of course, positive right off the rip. Good looking car. Another is the engine, the power plant, the platform that this car is based on, the VQ37. Nissan has refined this platform for over a decade now at this point, so it's tried and true, it's tested, although you can't make a lot of power out of it naturally aspirated. The thing is a high revving, high compression, crazy sounding little ripper. Although the car is a little bit heavy for what it is, in my opinion, it's decently well balanced and it's pretty well put together. And with some simple modifications, suspension, wheels, tires, upgraded brake rotors and things of that nature, it can become a really, really planted car with a lot of stability and a lot of control, paired with a decently powered power plant. It's a fun little car to have. I think the overall value of these cars is holding pretty well. So I think if you're able to find a decent deal, you're going to see that value stay at a level point, if not continue to trend upward, which is a good thing. Especially if you have a Nismo, or if you have sort of a higher trim level 370Z, I think you're going to see those values continue to trend upward even into 2023, 2024, and beyond. I think this opinion holds true, especially for the later production date 370Zs, because it's sort of the last of a generation, right? You have the new Z coming out, replacing that previous generation. So if you have one of the last built 370s, there's going to be a particular value there, like a nostalgia value. Just like any of the last of generations, that those cars tend to hold a little bit more value. First ofs and last of. So keep that in mind. If you're purchasing one now, maybe think about getting a later build date, or maybe a very, very early build date, or the higher trim levels with all the bells and whistles, or Nismo. I already sort of meant this in terms of aesthetics, but there is a really robust and substantial aftermarket. There's a lot of aftermarket support for a 370Z. Of course, there's going to be aftermarket support for the new Z as well, but it's going to take some time to be established as people develop parts, particularly aesthetic mods. But the 370Z already has that very, very well established aftermarket, and that is definitely a positive. So I think I've outlined a couple really important positive aspects of owning a 370Z going into 2023 and beyond. A good looking car with substantial aftermarket support, a really, really good and well-defined or well-refined driver's car with a well-established power plant, and its value is going to hold steady, if not continue to increase in value over time. And we're sort of getting into this sort of collector era as this generation of Z is phased out and we move into the new one. So there's a lot of upside in terms of owning 370Z. With that being said, there's some downsides too. The first con that I've noticed right off the rip, and now this sort of goes hand in hand with the overall value of holding steady, is that the prices are sort of crazy in my opinion. It's the nature of the market still, unfortunately, but even cars with 40,000 miles and a couple of years on them, I'm seeing 2019s for $40,000 or more. Of course, you can get some older ones with some higher miles in the high teens, low 20s. But if they're in decent shape and they got 40,000 miles on it, depending on the trim level, you're going to start seeing high 20s, low 30s, mid 30s, and then up into the 40s. So prices are high. Now, what everybody wants in terms of interior styling for cars is really, really subjective. I don't need all the bells and whistles, but with that being said, the Z really hasn't changed much over the years, and that holds true for the Gs and the Qs as well. We saw sort of the same styling cues, the same components, a lot of the same stuff roll over from year to year, and that's unfortunate. So you could be buying a brand new Z and you're getting something that the cars had in the years prior. So there's not a lot of just doesn't have a lot there. Yes, the VQ37 is a pretty well-established power plant, a really well-established and reliable platform. However, we can't get a lot of horsepower out of it. Now, yes, we've seen some of the newer Zs, 2019. I believe I had one on one of my videos at Soho Motorsports a couple of years ago with just high flow cats that made 340 something horsepower. That's really, really impressive, but that's sort of where we're maxed out on this platform. Between 335, 345, maybe you could squeeze 350-ish out of these cars. A lot of people balk at that. Now, me personally, a car that's well set up and pretty nimble, 350 horsepower in a rear-wheel drive vehicle is going to make it a lot of fun. But there's those of us out there that really are in need of more power, and unfortunately, unless you want to spend $10,000, $12,000, you're going to be stuck at the 350 horsepower mark out of the 370Z. Now, with that in consideration, when you take a look at the new Z that's coming from the factory with nearly 400 wheel horsepower, and considering the fact that you only need to put in a couple of bolt-ons and a tune, and you're going to make well over 400 and quite easily into the 500 horsepower range in a car that weighs just as much, that has a better automatic transmission and hopefully a better manual transmission. Not that the 370Z manual transmission was bad, by no means, but we can only assume that they've made some upgrades or updates, right? I'm not sure, correct me if I'm wrong, but we know the automatic is a 9-speed transmission, and it's got to be better than that 7-speed automatic. I think there's a lot of people that would get hung up on the price point of the 370Z currently too, because $30,000, $40,000, you can get a lot of car for that kind of money. C6 Corvette comes to mind right away, right off the top of my head. Might be 5, 6, 10 years older than a 370Z now at this point, but for $30,000, you can get a really nice C6, and that's a hell of a car. You can damn near get a new Mustang with the 10-speed for $40,000. I mean, there's a lot of cars out there in this price range that would compete with, if not just annihilate, a 370Z. So just to recap some of the negatives, it's at a pretty high price point for what it is. It takes a lot of money to make even some decent power with this car. Not a whole lot has changed with the vehicle over the years. What you're getting now is what you were getting several years ago, unfortunately. In that $20,000 to $40,000 price range, which these Zs are going for these days, there are a number of cars to choose from on the market that are just as good, if not better, all-around vehicles. Now, if I didn't mention it, the 370Z is of a generation that is no more. The torch, the badge, if you will, is being passed on to the new generation, the new 2023 Nissan Z. So, is it worth buying a 370Z now in 2022 and beyond? I actually am going to say yes. Yes, I think it is worth buying a 370Z at this point. There's quite a lineage, right? There's quite a heritage with the Z platform, but the 370Z specifically, it's a popular vehicle. As I said, it's holding its value quite well right now. And I think with the prices that the new Z is being listed at, there's going to be continued, if not increased, demand for the 370. So I think we're going to see these on the road for much, much longer. We're going to see them being passed from hand to hand on the market continually. People are still going to retain interest for the 370Z, and for that reason, I think the values again are going to hold steady, if not increase into the future, as the market just continues to be wild. So I think if you can get a good deal, you can get your hands on one, especially those higher trim levels, or a Nismo if you want to foot the bill for that one up front. I think you're going to be in a good spot. They really are fun cars. They're pretty nimble, they're fun to modify, they're relatively easy to work on, parts are readily available for them at decent price points. There's an excellent enthusiast community and a lot of support out there. Even making 340, 350 horsepower naturally aspirated, you're going to have a lot of fun in the Z. And of course, supercharging the VQ370 can really pull some big numbers out of that car. So if you're able to go that route, you're really going to have quite a beast of a machine on the track or on the street. I think they're worth purchasing now in 2022, despite the new Z coming out. And I think they're going to be worth purchasing well into the future as well. Still a cool car to have. That's just my opinion. Let me know in the comment section below. I appreciate you guys' input, and I appreciate your engagement with these videos. More stuff coming up for the channel, so I hope you will subscribe and follow along. Appreciate it. See you in the next one.